smiled and slashed the man's throat. The fight was like watching a dance. She smiled and slashed the man's throat. The fight was like watching a dance. She smiled and slashed the man's throat. The fight was like watching a dance. She smiled and slashed the man's throat. The fight was like watching a dance. She smiled and slashed the man's throat. The fight was like watching a dance. She.
Hello everyone, welcome to 2 and 3D. So today we are going to be doing something a little bit, well, not really a little bit, a lot different from what we usually do on this channel. So I got bored yesterday and I decided to recreate one of my animations, a frame by frame animation I made about 6 years ago. Okay, so I actually made that animation in Blender, but I did that using grease pencil. But in this case I decided to do something a little bit different. Instead of just sticking to grease pencil, which made the work a nightmare, it made it really difficult for me to make, because I had to go each frame and the whole process of making frame by frame animations. You have to go in, draw, paint, so you have to draw every single frame, which I did. But yesterday I did not have I didn't have an order, so this wasn't somebody's work, this was just my own work, and I didn't have the time. I didn't have to crunch through everything within a particular amount of time just to be able to meet order. So I took my time, but I really did not take as much time, because this whole project took me like maybe a few hours, I think like 3 hours to make. So I had created the character, I modeled the character in 3D. That is something that this is looking like a 2D animation. Well, if I play it, I've actually played it, so but if I go through it, you can see it's looking very 2D, and you can see all the effects are really looking 2D and blah like that, which is really cool. But this is actually 3D, so we are working in Blender. If I just activate this, you can see the reference video behind. Let me just deactivate that because I don't need that to be visible. If I go around our character, you can see it's actually a 3D character with grease pencil all over it. So this grease pencil, this one here, right here, is a line art grease pencil. So how to activate this is, all you just need to do is Ctrl A, add in a grease pencil object. So when you add a stroke here, or empty blank stroke, or whatever you want to add, when you have that selected, you come to your modifier here. You should be able to add modifier, add line art. So when you do that, you will now point it to the collection. Well, I'm going to do a more comprehensive tutorial about this, but just know this is a grease pencil object with a line art, and that line art is giving this character an outline. And this is, well, I'm going to come back to that. Okay, so whenever you're in camera view, all your line art, like your line art will come out, it will look like a 2D object. But the problem is line art, it's not so smart, or maybe it's too smart, because there are lines that are supposed to be displaying, instead of like hatching right here, I had to manually add this. This is supposed to be displaying at least for every 2D work, but it is not displaying. Whereas in some areas where lines are not supposed to be displaying, they are actually displaying. And this is understandable because this is a machine that is trying to mimic outlines. So it cannot get it right, but it gets it right at least maybe like 80% of the time. So you have to come in and assist Blender. So this is how I assist Blender. Select the line art, and then I add in and clean whatever. So okay, before I get to that, you make sure when you are done, when you have your outlines, you have to bake it. And how to bake it is, well, I have to add in the line art and make that possible. Well, I'm going to deal with that eventually in the future, but for now, just know that you have to bake it. When you bake it, now you have these lines, they will not be procedural anymore, they will be baked into your scene. So you now can clean and color, recolor, do whatever you want to do with the lines, and that is how you'll be able to get rid of lines, unwanted lines that you do not want them to appear in a particular place. And then you can manually add lines, and that's what I did right here. So these are actually lines that I added, and I added them in front of the character just so that they'll be visible. And now the mesh, all I did was make the mesh just an animation. I know that I'm literally speaking gibberish to so many people, especially people that are coming from, at least coming to listen to watch tutorials about character animator. But I think this is actually important also, because well, when you start making characters, one of the things you most likely will notice is your characters will be very still if you cannot make some frame by frame kind of animation, and this is actually a good method to actually do this. So I will say you should also lean into this, and when I upload the video, a comprehensive guide to making something like this, I think it will really benefit you a lot if you watch that video. And if you're not subscribed, please be subscribed to this channel, just so that you'll be able to watch that video. You'll get notified. That if you click the notify bell icon, you'll get notified when that video is out. Okay, but so far, well, we've dealt with the line art, but now the animation, because it's one thing to have your line art to make your character look 2D, but that is just in one frame. This character is looking 2D, but if you go through and you animate this character, there's also a chance that it will still look 3D, probably because of the movement. So 2D is there are some features that makes your character look more 2D. Features like exaggeration, features like imperfection. So when you have this character moving in perfect, like it's moving like a human, there's no way to look 2D. I don't know if this is making sense, but that is one thing that most NPR, that is non-photo realistic artists, get wrong, is that when they are trying to mimic a 2D animation, they tend to just leave it to interpolate and just move like a 3D object. Of course, it won't look like a 2D animation just because of that. So you have to find a way to create that imperfection. You have to force Blender to be imperfect. And how you'll be able to achieve that, at least for me, the way I was able to achieve that was I animated the character, because I already have the reference. So the reference is available to me here. All I need to do is to force the character to have that pose. And the way I achieve this is I animate the character from the camera view. If you go out and you start animating this character from it, well, if you look at this character in some pose, like, let me just get this pose where the character is yes, exactly this pose. Now this looks like a 2D pose from the camera view, but if I just move out a bit, you can see that this is not looking correct. This is looking like it's weird, like exaggerated postures, and the arms are big and stuff like that. But these are some of the kind of ways you can push that 2D look. So if you do some of this, you'll be able to get your animation to look more 2D, because a 2D artist is looking at foreshortening and is trying to get that to get the viewer to be able to understand that, okay, this is a foreshortening effect, or the character is actually, like, you're trying to beat that, make it add in that exaggeration. So just making your character to move, like if I just do this without this exaggeration, yeah, it won't look like a 2D animation. But I think I was able to get that 2D look because of some of this, and I was able to get rid of some frames, because you do not need your character to be moving in every frame. So you animate in twos, and in this case I had to stick with the original. I did animate the original in like 3s or 4s or something like that. In some cases I was doing 4 frames, in some cases I was doing 2 frames. So I had to use the same frame, this just so that I'll be able to stick to the way it is in that video. So I think well, this is sort of how I spent last night. I was just trying to do something a bit different, since I've not uploaded in a while, and I've been working on this program for a very, very long time. I just wanted to get out of my shell just for a moment to maybe get something out to you guys. I will appreciate it if you give me a like. If you like this video also, you could share it with your friends, and peace out.